Did you know? When the Thames turned, the great stink that forced London to change. In the summer of 1858, London was already a city on the edge of collapse, crowded, fast-growing, and struggling to keep up with its own success. Millions of people lived packed into narrow streets, and the River Thames ran through it all like a dark, sluggish artery. For decades, the river had been treated as an open drain. Household waste, sewage, industrial runoff, everything flowed into it. It was cheaper, simpler, and for a long time, people convinced themselves the river would take care of it. But the Thames was no longer a force of cleansing water. It had become something else entirely. Then came the heat. That summer, temperatures soared, and the river began to change in ways no one could ignore. The water level dropped, exposing thick layers of sludge along the banks. The sun baked the exposed waste, releasing a stench so powerful it seemed to settle into the very air of London itself. At first, people tried to carry on as usual. Merchants opened their shops. Carriages rattled over bridges. Clerks returned to their offices. But everywhere the same problem followed them: the smell. It drifted through streets like a living thing. It clung to clothing, seeped into buildings, and filled homes even miles from the river. People soaked handkerchiefs in vinegar and lime, pressing them to their noses just to breathe. Windows were sealed, but it made little difference. Soon, Londoners began calling it something unforgettable: the Great Stink. The heart of government was not spared. The Houses of Parliament stood directly beside the Thames, and as the heat intensified, the situation inside became unbearable. The river outside literally pressed its presence into every debate, every speech, every moment of governance. Members of Parliament attempted to continue the work, but concentration broke easily. Some refused to enter certain rooms. Curtains soaked in chemicals were hung in desperate attempts to mask the smell, but they only mixed with it, creating something even worse. The situation reached a breaking point. Business in Parliament was suspended, not because of war, rebellion, or political crisis, but because the air itself had become intolerable. It was humiliation on a national scale. For a city that prided itself on being the capital of the world, London had been brought to a standstill by its own waste. But in that failure came clarity. The Great Stink forced leaders, who had long delayed action, to confront a reality they could no longer ignore. The city was poisoning itself. Something had to be built, something vast and permanent, to separate human life from human waste. Engineers were called in, and plans that had been discussed for years suddenly became urgent. The solution was ambitious beyond anything London had attempted before: a vast underground sewage system that would collect waste and carry it far beyond the city, rather than dumping it into the Thames. Work began quickly. Miles of tunnels were designed beneath the streets, carefully engineered to follow the natural slope of the land. Massive pumping stations were constructed, combining function with architectural grandeur. It was not just a fix, it was a complete reimagining of how a modern city should work beneath its surface. As construction progressed, the worst of the smell slowly faded from daily life. The Thames, though not instantly clean, was no longer being treated as a dumping ground in the same way. Over time, the river began its long recovery, and London, too, changed. What had once been an invisible crisis forced into the background of daily life became the catalyst for one of the greatest public health transformations in history. The city learned, painfully and permanently, that growth without infrastructure carries a cost, and that even a great river can be broken when pushed beyond its limits. The summer of 1858 was remembered not for what it destroyed, but for what it forced into existence: a modern sewage system that would protect generations to come, hidden beneath the streets, born from one unbearable truth the city could no longer deny: